Well, the relationship between US President Donald Trump and America's intelligence community hit a new low this week when sacked FBI boss James Comey revealed to a congressional hearing that he'd taken detailed notes of his meetings with the president because he was concerned Mr. Trump might lie about them.
This sparked an angry response from the president, who says he's 100% willing to speak under oath about his conversations with Mr. Comey. For more on this, we're joined by Professor Ed Blakely, who is a former White House staffer for both Republican and Democratic presidents. Good morning to you, Ed. Thanks for joining us again. Before we move on to whether or not Mr. Comey was credible or not, do you think that his testimony provided evidence that there was some sort of obstruction of justice?
Yes, it does. It's a pattern. Obstruction of justice is not what you say, but how you do things. 4 times meeting with him seems to say to me that maybe you'll do something for me. When the president comes to you and asks a question, the response is, how can I do it? Not, will I or won't I? And Nixon didn't say anything. It was what he did.
So do you think Comey was credible giving his testimony, and if so, why?
Well, I thought he was credible in several respects. One, he was very careful about the language he used. And he set it up by saying the individual, the location, the conversation, and the fact that other people were excused from these conversations. All those things were telling a story, and as a former prosecutor, he's building a case.
Well, a lot of the Republicans on the committee went quite hard at James Comey, questioning why he didn't himself leave the room in these meetings, why he didn't say to the White House, I don't want one-on-one meetings with the president. Would that have been a reasonable course of action for an FBI chief?
Well, it's a difficult circumstance. If you've ever been in the White House or with the Queen, you know there are certain protocols. And when they don't happen, you're stunned. And that's exactly what he said. The other thing was, he thought the president might reveal something about what was going on that need to be a state secret. Not that the president did anything wrong, but he might have heard something, he might have heard about something, and it would have been quite appropriate for him to excuse everyone from the room for that kind of conversation.
You mentioned that, speaking about Mr. Comey really grappling with his relationship with Mr. Trump and how to respond. The White House responded by saying that perhaps our new president isn't quite aware of protocol and procedure with these seemingly independent bodies. How long is that argument going to last for? How long can they say that Mr. Trump is still finding his feet?
That sounds like incompetence to me. Gross incompetence. A high school student would know that. So I think that they're building a case against their boss when they say he doesn't know things that are important to any executive in any corporation, let alone President of the United States. So that is a very, very thin line.
We saw in a press conference yesterday at the White House, President Trump accused James Comey of being a leaker. Did he? Well, he did tell the committee that he prepared his notes for the media. Is he a leaker, and is that going to be a problem for him?
He leaked something because he couldn't trust his bosses. When you don't trust the person you report to, the Attorney General, you don't trust the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, and you don't trust the President, what do? I think that's a whistleblower, not a leaker.
So where does all of this leave President Trump? This was obviously an open congressional hearing. There's now closed sessions. Where does this leave Mr. Trump? Because do you expect that Mueller will find more in the closed sessions?
Mueller will not be in the closed sessions. He'll have other investigative things to do. In the closed sessions, what will be discussed is the fact that what came out is that the Russians were involved in this election. Notice the President of the United States is not concerned about that very important issue. The President should be saying, oh my gosh, let's get to the bottom of this. He isn't. The President's own closest people, his daughter and his son-in-law, are now in a whirlwind. So the President is isolated. He's isolated himself, and in these hearings, he will become increasingly isolated.
That's an interesting point you raise, because that is the key issue here, is whether Russia has intervened in the US election process. Does this political scandal and the shift to the relationship between Comey and President Trump, does that risk distracting from that key issue?
It may in the press, but it won't be with the Congress. The Congress is really on to this because they know this jeopardizes the entire United States and its future. Already we see kind of a triumvirate arising. Tillotson in Foreign Affairs, Massey in Defense, and Pence in Domestic Affairs. It may be that, like Caesar, we're seeing the first triumvirate taking over the United States because the president is crippled.
And if that triumvirate does make progress and gain power and really run by proxy, if you like, how will that play out? Will that be a good thing or a bad thing for the United States?
It's a bad thing for the United States. Clearly, with North Korea, with China, and other issues, you need a strong presidency. We've seen in Great Britain the destabilization. Now we have a destabilization with the other great power in the United States. The Chinese must be loving this, and the Russians, because this gives them a free run in territory they like to run in. Something will have to be done. I don't know what or how soon, but the United States cannot stand having its role diminished in world affairs, and it is not good for the world.
Well, Professor Ed Blakely from the University of Sydney, I think we, like the rest of the world, will be watching this very closely as it unfolds over the next few months.
Well, it will be unfolding.
We'll see you next weekend. There'll be more to tell, I'm sure. Ed Blakely, many thanks.